The games in Squid Game are more than just challenges. They're battlegrounds where survival collides with morality, and every decision carries the weight of life or death. From the chilling simplicity of red light green light to the heart-stopping chaos of the glass bridge, these games didn't just entertain, they became global phenomena. Now, Season 2 has entered the arena, promising bigger stakes and bolder moves. But here's the question, did it up the ante and deliver unforgettable moments, or did it crumble under its own ambition? Today, we're pitting Season 1 against Season 2 in a showdown of tension, symbolism, and emotional impact. The winner? Well, let's just say it's not as simple as cracking a dalgona candy. Let's dive in. Squid Game isn't just a series, it's a cultural juggernaut that redefines survival storytelling. From its jaw-dropping twists to its biting social commentary, Season 1 hooked us with its raw simplicity and emotional depth. But now, Season 2 has stormed onto the scene with bigger sets, more complex games, and some daring new ideas. So why focus on the games? Because they're the beating heart of the series. They're where humanity is tested, alliances are forged, and shattered, and where the stakes feel crushingly real. These games weren't just entertainment, they had us biting our nails, shouting at the screen, and even questioning our own morals. Season 1 brought us simple childhood games with brutal twists, forcing us to confront the darkest corners of human nature. Season 2, however, cranks everything up to 11 with more elaborate setups and even riskier stakes. But did that gamble pay off? Or did it lose the magic that made the first season unforgettable? Today, we're breaking it all down, the tension, the themes, the spectacle, and even what you, the fans, think about these games. This isn't just about shattered glass panes or spinning tops, it's about the legacy of Squid Game. Did Season 2 truly outplay its predecessor, or did it miss the mark? Ready to find out which season truly played its games better? Let's dive in. Season 1's games weren't just thrilling, they were traumatic. Red light, green light didn't just shock, it horrified. That giant doll's dead-eyed stare and its mechanical voice counting down were enough to make anyone freeze, literally. And when the gunfire started, it turned a nostalgic childhood game into a massacre that felt chillingly surreal. Then there was the dalgona challenge. Every time a player's needle cracked the honeycomb candy, you felt their panic as if you were holding your breath along with them. The stakes weren't just high, they were excruciatingly personal, and the unpredictability made every second unforgettable. Season 2 took a different route. Instead of leaning on shock value, it introduced entirely new challenges, upping the complexity and scale. One standout was the six-legged pentathlon, teams of 5, tied together, racing against the clock through a series of mini-games. It was innovative, chaotic, and visually dynamic. But here's the catch, did it really deliver the tension we craved? Not quite. While the setup was clever, the stakes felt oddly muted. Despite 4 episodes of character build-up, it didn't feel like their lives were genuinely in danger. That visceral fear, the sense that any wrong move could be your last, just wasn't there. Contrast this with the dalgona game, where even a microscopic crack in the candy could seal a player's fate. That's the level of suspense Season 2 struggled to recreate. Season 2 leaned heavily on intricate setups and clever rules. And sure, complexity has its charm, it's fascinating to see how strategies unfold. But clever isn't the same as terrifying. The raw dread that defined Season 1's games, the feeling that any misstep could result in instant death, was sorely missed. Without that nail-biting fear, the games started feeling more like puzzles to solve rather than life-or-death battles. What do you think? Did Season 2's games recapture the terror and tension of the first season? Or did they feel a little too polished and safe for your taste? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear which season had you truly on the edge of your seat. Season 1's games weren't just designed for entertainment. They were crafted to pull at our emotions, build nail-biting tension, and keep us guessing at every turn. Let's dive into why these games left such a lasting impact. The game that started it all. What seemed like harmless fun quickly descended into chaos. The sight of the giant doll, equal parts innocent and menacing, caught us off guard. But when the first gunshot echoed, the horror of the Squid Game world became crystal clear. This wasn't just about following the doll's commands, it was a brutal wake-up call for the players. Many froze in fear, realizing for the first time that they were fighting for their lives. It also set the stage for alliances to form and rivalries to simmer. The doll wasn't just a creepy centerpiece, it represented the oppressive forces in society, dictating when people could move forward or be eliminated, much like societal hierarchies. Carving shapes out of sugar shouldn't be this stressful. But every crack in the honeycomb carried life or death consequences. The nostalgia hit hard for Korean viewers, but the tension was universal. And who could forget Ji-hun licking his way to victory, a strategy equal parts genius and desperate. The game tested the players' creativity and adaptability, but it also showed how unfair life can be. Those stuck with the umbrella shape faced almost impossible odds, while others had an easier path, a grim reflection of real-life privilege. The uneven distribution of shapes highlighted systemic inequalities. Luck played as much of a role as skill, reminding us of the arbitrary nature of success in an unjust system. Tug of war wasn't just physical, it was psychological. A game often played in childhood took on a life-or-death twist, with players dangling over the abyss. But what made this game stand out was the brilliant strategy introduced by Sang-woo and the old man's wisdom, turning an unwinnable situation into a triumph for the underdogs. This wasn't just about strength, it was about trust, unity, and teamwork. Watching a group of misfits band together to outsmart stronger opponents was inspiring. But the game also foreshadowed the betrayals that would come later in the series. The act of pulling others to their doom reflected the compromises and moral sacrifices often required to survive in oppressive systems. The most emotionally devastating game of the series. Marbles turned friends into enemies and allies into betrayers. Under the guise of a seemingly innocent game, we saw trust shattered and humanity tested. It wasn't about who was stronger or smarter, it was about who was willing to sacrifice. Watching Ji-young sacrifice herself for Sae Byak and Sang-woo's betrayal of Ali tore viewers apart. This was the game that forced players to confront their darkest selves. The fragility of trust took center stage. What was once a game of friendship turned into a brutal contest of survival, emphasizing how easily relationships can crumble under pressure. Suspense reached its peak with the glass bridge. Each step was a gamble, with players leaping into uncertainty. The game was as much about courage as it was about strategy, or, for those at the front, sheer luck. This game forced players to confront their mortality. It also revealed the darker side of humanity, with players pushing others ahead to secure their own survival. The bridge served as a metaphor for social mobility. Those at the back benefited from the sacrifices of others, highlighting the cruel hierarchies that define success. The titular game brought the series to its rawest, most primal point. Stripped of all pretenses, Ji-hun and Sang-woo faced off in a brutal fight that wasn't just about winning, it was about what kind of person they wanted to be. The final game represented the culmination of everything the players endured. It wasn't just about survival, it was about morality, with Ji-hun and Sang-woo representing two opposing worldviews, compassion versus ruthless ambition. The Squid Game itself embodied the cycle of violence and exploitation, forcing players to confront the dehumanizing systems they had become a part of. Season 1 thrived on simplicity. It didn't need elaborate sets or overly complex rules. The emotional weight of each game carried the series. Every move, every decision, and every loss felt personal, leaving viewers haunted long after the credits rolled. Fans were quick to celebrate the emotional depth of Season 1's games. Red light, green light became a global meme. The glass bridge had everyone debating survival strategies. And marbles? If you didn't cry, were you even watching the same show? Season 2 of Squid Game had the monumental task of living up to its predecessor's simplicity and emotional weight. This time, the games leaned heavily on psychological manipulation, moral dilemmas, and visually striking spectacles. Let's dive into how these games shaped the season and whether they succeeded in capturing the spirit of Squid Game. The premiere episode wastes no time in delivering its critique of human desperation. In Bread and Lottery, The salesman approaches individuals struggling with poverty and offers them a choice: a piece of bread or a lottery ticket. Many participants, driven by the allure of wealth, choose the lottery ticket, only to find it worthless. Meanwhile, the discarded bread, representing sustenance, is crushed underfoot by the salesman, a stark metaphor for squandered opportunities and misplaced priorities. This game serves as a biting commentary on gambling culture and society's exploitation of the desperate, setting a grim tone for the season. The second game in Squid Game Season 2 occurs at the end of Episode 1, where the salesman forces Woo-suk and Mr. Kim to play Jo Kenpo -1, a twisted version of rock, paper, scissors. Players play two hands simultaneously, removing one after each round. The stakes are brutally high: survival or death. The climax of this game is gut-wrenching. Mr. Kim deliberately loses to save his friend Woo-suk, sacrificing his life in the process. This moment highlights Mr. Kim's selflessness and adds layers of guilt and grief to Woo-suk's character arc. Turning a childhood pastime into a deadly choice emphasizes the season's focus on moral dilemmas and the weight of sacrifice. Russian Roulette takes the concept of chance to its deadly extreme. Ji-hun and the salesman play this iconic game to determine the outcome of their escalating conflict. Using a 6-gauge revolver with one loaded bullet, they take turns firing at themselves, the odds of survival decreasing with each pull of the trigger. Remarkably, both play the game honorably, resulting in 5 consecutive blanks. The final bullet kills the salesman, allowing Ji-hun to contact the front man and re-enter the Squid Game. This moment showcases Ji-hun's resolve and underscores the season's exploration of fate and choice. The tension in this game is amplified by Gong Yu's haunting performance, making it one of the most memorable moments of Season 2. It reflects the harrowing unpredictability of life in the Squid Game universe, where survival often hinges on luck alone. A returning classic from Season 1, Red Light Green Light, once again serves as a ceremonial opening game. Players must walk forward to cross a line while stopping completely when red light is announced. Motion detectors in a giant doll scan for movement, instantly eliminating anyone caught. While still thrilling, the game lacks the impact it had in Season 1. However, it serves as a nostalgic callback for viewers while highlighting the stakes for new players. The precise cinematography and use of music maintain the tension, even if the game's novelty has diminished. The second round of Season 2 introduces a 6-legged pentathlon, requiring teams of 5 to compete in 5 mini-games. Players are tethered together and must navigate from station to station, completing challenges under a strict time limit. Failure results in instant elimination. A test of accuracy and force using the iconic 2-envelope game. Players must knock over a vertical stone from 10 feet away. A skill game akin to jacks, requiring precision and balance. The player spins a top using a rope, with success hinging on technique. Players kick a toy into the air 5 times consecutively, probably the easiest of the 5. This round tests teamwork, strategy, and individual skill, creating emotional highs and lows as alliances are tested under pressure. Mingle is a chaotic, betrayal-filled game where players gather on a rotating platform. When the platform stops, a number is called, and players must form groups matching the number to enter chambers around the room. Those who fail to meet the requirements or find shelter are executed on the spot. The game highlights the fragility of alliances, with players betraying each other in a desperate bid to survive. The carousel setting adds a layer of surrealism, while the rapid decision-making injects the season with much-needed intensity. Episode 6's execution of Mingle recaptures the nail-biting tension that defines Season 1's most memorable moments. The rotating platform adds a surreal, almost dreamlike quality to the carnage, while the unpredictability keeps viewers on edge. The special round, unofficially known as Lights Out, sees the contestants plunged into darkness after a tied vote results in a revote. Players are given forks with their meals, which they weaponize in a chaotic free-for-all. This round is unregulated, exposing the primal instincts of the players as they fight for survival. The unrelenting violence sets the stage for Ji-hun's revolt, marking a turning point in the season. The cinematography, with its flickering lights and disorienting angles, amplifies the chaos, making this one of the most visceral sequences in Squid Game history. Let's break down the games from Squid Game Season 1 and Season 2 across tension, symbolism, and relatability versus spectacle to see which season truly delivered the most impactful moments. The tension in Season 1 was immediate and visceral. From the chilling simplicity of red light, green light, where players were thrust into life-or-death situations with no room to adapt, to the nerve-wracking suspense of Glass Bridge, every game left you holding your breath. The brutality of tug-of-war turned a childhood team sport into a desperate fight for survival, while Marbles delivered heartbreak as alliances and friendships shattered under the weight of betrayal. Season 2 introduced more complex games with psychological undertones. Mingle tested alliances and quick decision-making, while Russian Roulette brought raw emotional stakes and personal sacrifice. Jokenpo -1 offered a cerebral edge, but other games, like the six-legged pentathlon, lacked the same stakes and urgency. Bread and Lottery was deeply symbolic, but it didn't capture the immediate, heart-stopping fear that defined Season 1. One fan commented, "Season 1 had me gripping the edge of my seat." Season 2 was more of a slow burn, with fewer moments that made me yell at the screen. Season 2 leaned into strategy and moral dilemmas, but it couldn't replicate the gut-wrenching suspense of Season 1. Season 1's games were steeped in relatable symbolism. Dalgona twisted a nostalgic childhood treat into a death game, while Glass Bridge symbolized the randomness of life and the weight of decisions. Marbles was a masterclass in emotional devastation, exploring themes of trust, betrayal, and sacrifice in a deeply personal way. Season 2 leaned into intellectual symbolism. Bread and Lottery critiqued gambling culture and the commodification of hope, while Mingle explored herd mentality and the survival instinct. While thought-provoking, these games often felt emotionally detached from the players. The emphasis on clever themes sometimes came at the cost of emotional intimacy. A commenter on YouTube noted, Season 1's games were metaphors for life's struggles. Season 2's games felt more like elaborate social experiments. Season 1's emotional grounding made its symbolism resonate deeply, whereas Season 2's intellectual approach, while clever, lacked the same intimacy. While Squid Game is as subtle as a wrecking ball, it delivered solid symbolism. The games in Squid Game aren't just tests of survival, they're meticulously crafted spectacles that reflect the series' themes. Let's dive into how the visual design, settings, and creativity of the games evolved from Season 1 to Season 2. Season 1's visual style thrived on simplicity, using stark, stripped-down designs to create a surreal yet disturbingly intimate atmosphere. The open field and the giant, emotionless doll exuded a sense of innocence turned malevolent. The childlike setting contrasted sharply with the brutal violence, amplifying the horror of each gunshot. The glowing neon chasm beneath the glass panes was both mesmerizing and terrifying, emphasizing the player's fragility with every misstep. Set in a nostalgic playground, the warmth of childhood memories clashed with the life-or-death stakes, creating a haunting emotional dissonance. This season's minimalist approach allowed the tension to take center stage. The clean, uncluttered visuals forced viewers to focus entirely on the player's peril and the psychological weight of their decisions. Season 2 shifted gears, delivering grander and more theatrical settings that leaned into spectacle and scale. One of the largest in games in either season, the carnival-inspired setting felt more whimsical. The vibrant colors and shifting layouts kept the players and viewers constantly on edge. While the bright, playful backdrops created an almost absurd aesthetic, the set reused the same stage from Season 1's Dalgona game, a subtle nod to the show's ability to repurpose and evolve. The dim, isolated room brought the focus entirely onto the players, heightening the psychological stakes. This game's understated design contrasted sharply with the spectacle of others, delivering intimate, nerve-wracking tension. Season 2's designs were undeniably ambitious and visually captivating, but the shift towards spectacle sometimes overshadowed the emotional resonance that defined Season 1. Season 1's minimalist brutality made its games feel more grounded, amplifying both the tension and emotional stakes. Every set piece was designed to strip the players down to their core instincts, making their choices and desperation feel raw and relatable. Season 2, on the other hand, went for grandeur. The settings were larger, flashier, and more imaginative, with Mingle standing out as one of the most complex and impactful games across both seasons. However, the reuse of the Dalgona set for six-legged pentathlon felt less innovative, and some games prioritized spectacle over substance. For me, the visceral simplicity of Season 1 edges out the theatricality of Season 2. Its raw, haunting visuals made the terror feel personal, while Season 2 sometimes felt like a showpiece for the game's creators rather than the players' struggles. The mechanics and rules of the games in Squid Game are as integral as their design, shaping the players' strategies, testing their morality, and keeping the audience in suspense. But how do Season 1's games compare to those of Season 2 in balancing simplicity, complexity, and emotional impact? Let's dive in. Season 1's games thrived on minimalism, using universally understood rules to create immediate tension and emotional resonance. A classic childhood game with crystal-clear instructions: move on green, stop on red. This simplicity, juxtaposed with the horrifyingly sudden violence, delivered a gut punch that set the tone for the series. A universally familiar team game, elevated by the addition of a deadly fall. The stakes transformed a simple test of strength into a high-stakes psychological battle, where teamwork and strategy determined life or death. Pure luck dictated survival, forcing players to confront the cruel randomness of fate. The game's rules were easy to grasp but offered no room for skill, heightening the tension with every step forward. The beauty of Season 1's mechanics lay in their accessibility. Players didn't need time to understand complex instructions, which allowed the audience to immediately immerse themselves in the action. This stripped-down approach made every decision feel raw and personal, putting the player's desperation and humanity at the forefront. Season 2 introduced more intricate rules and mechanics, emphasizing strategy and psychological warfare over sheer survival instincts. One of the most ambitious games across both seasons, Mingle required players to form alliances and betray them, testing their ability to think strategically under time pressure. This game thrived on social manipulation, creating some of the season's most intense moments. A blend of individual skill and team coordination, this game added layers of complexity but slightly diluted the immediacy of life-or-death stakes. Interestingly, it reused the Dalgona set from Season 1, blending nostalgia with innovation. Stripped down to a single, high-stakes decision, this game demanded psychological endurance and courage, offering a sharp contrast to the season's otherwise complex mechanics. While Season 2's games explored deeper themes, the layered complexity occasionally detracted from the raw tension that defined Season 1. For instance, Bread and Lottery, despite its symbolic undertones, lacked the visceral impact of a clear-cut win-or-die scenario. Season 1 excelled with its straightforward mechanics, allowing the emotional stakes to take center stage. Every decision felt immediate and personal, amplifying the desperation of survival. Season 2's games, while innovative and thought-provoking, occasionally overcomplicated the stakes. The emphasis on strategic depth worked best in games like Mingle, where the psychological tension matched the complexity of the mechanics. However, simpler games like Russian Roulette reminded us of the raw, gut-wrenching power that defined Season 1. For me, the balance between strategy and survival was most effective when the rules were simple but devastating, leaving players and viewers on the edge of their seats. When comparing the games of Squid Game Seasons 1 and 2, each season brought its own strengths and weaknesses, reflecting different approaches to tension, symbolism, and mechanics. Thrived on simplicity and emotional depth. Its games resonated universally, using childhood nostalgia and straightforward mechanics to amplify the stakes. The symbolism was deeply personal, creating moments of raw, unforgettable tension. Took ambitious risks with its game design, exploring complex themes and introducing moral dilemmas. While the added strategy and spectacle were intriguing, they occasionally overshadowed the emotional connection that made Season 1 so impactful. Season 1 remains the gold standard, with its games perfectly balancing tension, symbolism, and relatability. Season 2 deserves credit for pushing boundaries and offering fresh ideas, but it lacked the visceral simplicity and emotional punch of its predecessor. What do you think? Which season's games had you on the edge of your seat? Did the ambition of Season 2 outshine the emotional resonance of Season 1? Or does Season 1 still reign supreme? Let's discuss in the comments below.